You're listening to the Brown Sign Project podcast. Every journey a visitor takes through your attraction should immerse them in your values and heritage and leave them wanting more. Stephen Spencer and Associates are a team of highly experienced tourism and retail aficionados who will help you develop a sixth sense in order to maximize every opportunity. We're here to help you build and engage your team to own and enhance your visitor experience. Above all, we're here to help you increase your profitability in these challenging times because people become engaged team members and loyal customers when they love your attraction as much as you do.
Welcome to the Brown Sign Project, the podcast for tourism and attractions industry professionals. My name is Carlton, one of the hosts of the show. In this episode, we talk to Ash Smith, co-founder and financial director of Harbour Park. Ash tells us about the Smart family history and the part they've played in the industry, also sharing some great advice in getting in and progressing within the tourism and attractions industry. And as another guest who loves numbers and statistics, Ash tells us how he developed his analytical skills in other areas of his life before returning back to his family business. Before we talk to Ash, we would like to take the opportunity to thank our season sponsors, Staff Savvy and Stephen Spencer and Associates. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing this show, so thank you very much. And now, let's get on with the show. Hello, another day. Another podcast. Carly, hello, how are you?
I am good. Looking forward to this one.
Me too. I'm very, very excited. I've got one of my buddies on today. But yes, it's going to be great. It's another careers podcast. So this gentleman is going to be talking about his career, what he's done, and it's quite unique actually. I don't think we've had anyone like him on our podcast. So Ash, hello, welcome.
Hello, thank you for inviting me to take part.
Oh, you are more than welcome, more than welcome. So before we start, I just want you to explain to everybody what you do and how you do it.
So basically, at the moment, I am co-owner and finance director at Harbour Park, beachside amusement park on the south of England. So really, because we're a family business and we're not the largest, so we have a small team. So I'm quite involved in the day-to-day of the financials, currently training up a new bookkeeper to take over a lot of the processing. But also I'm a bit of a analytical type in that. So I'm constantly delving down all the numbers in each department, seeing we're maintaining the margins, which is very relevant in this day and age with high inflation as it is, price reviews regularly. But also I'm here on weekends. So I kind of snap into operations mode on the weekends, go down general manager kind of role, making sure everyone's got enough change in tills or lifts and things like that, from making sure customer queries are dealt with, that take the pressure off our management to get on with getting the running of their department. So kind of all hands on deck kind of thing in the height of the season, but no day is the same. So and that's it. And then the rest of the week is kind of stuck ball and chain to my desk and my phone and presenting to the other directors once a week what things are looking like. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I do week by week.
That's amazing. I am such a sort of theme park nerd, and I just look at just certain tiny things like you say, about having enough money in the tills and making sure, everyone's just, I've worked in a few theme parks and it does really sort of make me a little bit nostalgic. Like, it's people forget that those things go on, that it's not just, the people that you see serving you, it's all the people in the background sort of making sure that things just working.
That is so true. That's so true, Carly. I always say that if a family's day out seems seamless, there are dozens and dozens of people that have made that happen that you'll never meet.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you necessarily want them? Like, I love the magic of that thing that, like you say, that it's just sort of like little elves, in the background, making stuff work. I love it. The magic.
I call us the anonymous memory makers.
Oh, that's lovely.
Like that.
Yeah. We're all like writing that down now. Like,
I'm so borrowing that one.
So we normally start with an icebreaker, and we're asking everyone the same icebreaker for this series, because we discovered that when we were doing this last year, is that this is a question that comes up and we think it's quite telling, but we think maybe for you it might be slightly different. So we'll go with it. But what job did you want to do when you were a child? Because, I think most children would say they want to go up and own a theme park.
Maybe, yes. I one that stands out to me very clearly is a policeman. And I remember dressing up in a light blue shirt with a police badge sewn on the arm and stand outside my house pretending to be like on duty outside my house. So yes, that's the most vivid memory I have of a career hope for the future.
One of the only children that thought, oh, I could go up and join the circus, but actually
yes, that is true. So maybe it had something to do with wanting to have integrity when I was older, or helpful for other people, which does tie nicely into the theme park business.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we started recording, just to give people an idea, you gave us a bit of a history of Harbour Park and kind of the family history there. Would you just recount it for us? Because I think it's really fascinating to give people an idea of the background that you have.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So our family purchased Harbour Park back in 1977. So we've been here well over 40 years. But if I go back further, it's kind of started around 1910 with just a single hand cranked roundabout on a fun fair. And the family grew it to a certain size, to the point where my great-grandfather added a circus after visiting America and seeing what the next best thing was. But the circus outgrew the fun fair, so his part of the family took the circus out, and it was Billy Smart Circus in the 50s and 60s. Many of the older generation knew it as a household name, and it was did big spectacular shows, was on BBC after Queen's Speech, or like specials, and then when that kind of run its course, it ended up Winter Safari Park, and to house the animals and focus on conservation and things like that. So that ultimately was sold by my grandfather and his brother. It's now Legoland. And my grandfather invested down in Sussex on the south coast, Smart's Amusement Park, it was first called. And in about 95 to 2000, it was redeveloped, rebranded as Harbour Park, aiming at primary school children going on rides for the first time with their guardians and parents, or solo for their first time. So that's the history recap. That's
amazing. I mean, I would say you said about, for an older generation, it would have been a household name. I definitely have memories of, my grandma telling me about Billy Smart Circus, and it was definitely a name that kind of got bandied around. So I hope that was a thing for other people as well. And I didn't just have a sort of slightly wayward circus joining grandma, which I probably did, to be fair.
It was great growing up, meeting like school friends, grandparents and everything. And the moment they said it, my friend would say it, they'd light up and be like, oh, wow, I remember, I didn't get chose to in the parade, back in the golden age of circus, when that was the entertainment of the day. So it was nice hearing those stories and those memories, and still is now. People do still stop now, and we have a bronze statue of Billy Smart himself at our park. So yeah.
Oh wow, what a great legacy to leave, of just being in people's memories like that. That's amazing. And so obviously you went from wanting to be a policeman to but we're kind of born into the family, in that kind of history, like I say, the legacy. Mm-hmm. What did you do next? Like, how did you get from this little boy wanting to be a policeman to where you are now? What was your kind of education like? Where did you go?
Well, obviously family business, you work when you're a kid. So 11 years old, I was selling programs out the front of our all human circus in the 90s when it was touring, and my school turned up, and there I was dressed as a clown selling programs. Didn't live that one down. And then in the summer holidays, I remember being about 13, taking bookings over the phone, booking people into the show, and then washing up in one of our restaurants for the summer. Gradually working onto rides and attractions, and then going on to study university. I studied actually modern history up in Norwich, because it was a bit of a passion of mine is history, but modern history, and went on to do actually a master's in international security and intelligence. So a bit different. So that's where my analytical mind comes from, and I did that at King's College in London.
Wow, that is a big departure. Analytical.
Yes, because that would be my advice to those listening about careers, is that, just because you're not doing a degree that's theme park or hospitality or anything, the transferable skills are there. It's not in a million years that I think I'll be using things I did during my MA, and that kind of mindset, and transferring it to analyzing numbers instead of words and data, and presenting from it, making concise reports. So, it really did put me in good stead for the future.
Yeah, I think being able to tell a story from statistics and data is definitely a skill for many, many industries. I do think that's a big key driver.
It is, and weighing up what's noise, what's relevant, what's important, the pros and cons of everything, and then coming down on side and actually having a decision and having an opinion, not sitting on the fence, but a considered one, that you think you've mined everything you can before you make that suggestion. So that came in handy. I did work other places. I did bits in food and beverage. I was at Westminster for a bit with an MP, and gradually I wanted to gain enough experience away from the family business. So when I came back, I had a clear routing in how other things and how other processes worked, and I had something to offer. And my brother did the same. He went in the army and joined the army. And then we came back roughly the same time, about 6 months within each other, because there was no real roles that piqued our interest before. We weren't going to have one created for us. We had to wait and wait for opportunities and apply. And mine was in the financials and accounts department, my opportunity. So I had a lot to learn. Did night courses at the same time as learning, as well as doing operations as well. So it was a tough 12 months when I first came back, but again had more to offer than just if I'd only been in the family business.
Wow, yeah, that's a breadth of experience if ever there was some.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. I just want you to kind of think about everything that you've done, okay? And the question I want to ask you is like, what is your why? Like, what motivates you to do what you want to do or what you do?
There's different elements to that. Obviously, when you have a family, that's your chief motivation to provide for them. That's number one over everything. Everyone says it, but it does make you happy knowing that you're a part of lifelong memories that repeat themselves from generation to generation. That you've provided that platform, that it wasn't just a beach trip, it was like the enhanced beach trip. You go to the beach, you go on the rides, you play some games, you have your ice cream, you find some cool candy floss, and then that child grows up and goes, I want my child to have the same experience I had, and they come back. And that can go all the way up to grandparent age, and that is so satisfying to see as a family business. And we pride ourselves on customer service. It's one of our USPs. It's when you're family owned, you're there. Customer has a concern, member of the family's there, dealing with it, can make a decision very quickly, which we think is different maybe from some other larger groups, that maybe you don't get access to that kind of decision maker as quick.
Yeah, I think being able to access a decision, we were in one of our other episodes talking about kind of decisive decision making and timely decision making and working under pressure. And I think it is the closer you can kind of squash that hierarchy down to say, we're all responsible for making that person's day and making a decision and doing what needs to be done. I think, yeah, that the better service you can offer, definitely. There's nothing worse than being pushed along.
Yeah, we haven't always got it right. We haven't got it. Sometimes it relied too much on us, and we had to really look at our policies and put in a far more strong policy systems for our managers to follow. So they got to make those key decisions. So the amount of times family members or duty directors got called was more limited. It actually empowered our managers more. We found we were probably micromanaging too much. So now it's like policy is quite clear now. And if we do have to come, we can just back up what the manager has said. If it is no, sorry, that is the policy, but here we go, rather than trying to do everything off the cuff, which I think has actually made everyone a lot happier, staff and the customer.
Yeah, that consistent message of I've been told, so, and then not sort of you going in over their head, I think gives people confidence, definitely.
Exactly.
And so I think you kind of touched on it there, but in terms of it probably is quite a challenge sometimes to be the owner and be, guest facing. Is that what would be your biggest challenge, or is there a challenge we don't know about yet that you're taking on?
That is a challenge. That's a daily challenge, because the moment you drive into the car park, you're on show. As family member, as the operator, you are the standard. You can't slack. You're late, everyone notices. So you're actually early. It makes it, if you're late, it makes it right for everyone else. And if your shirt's hanging out, that's all right for everyone else. It's so you're constantly on performance. So there's that, but kind of used to that. And if someone points out something that you're not quite doing right, and I'm all for that, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Or if I forget a policy and the manager's like, actually, that's a policy, it's like, great, thanks. You know more than I do. Congrats, well done. So yeah, that is a challenge, but it's not an exhausting challenge. Our challenges are more to do with things like government relations and some of the real business nitty-gritty things behind the scenes to make sure that we can remain viable and fight off any external challenges that we may have.
And that's really interesting, because that's probably not a part of the business that a lot of people see if they're not owner operator, is that there's usually quite a distinction between the people in the park and the people who are dealing with policy or lobbying, or it must be a very interesting place to inhabit.
Well, this is it. This is the diversity of the careers in the industry. There's people who are head of government relations at the corporate level that is their job. Some of them to talk with local government, some talk to central government, and it just shows it's not, I'm studying theme parks because I want to be a manager at Disney one day. It's not. There's independent inspections, technicians. There's so many avenues to go for marketing, government relations. I could go through many, but it is that wide.
Yeah, I always come back to I worked at a theme park a number of years ago and did a recruitment event. And someone sort of said, well, I'm far too qualified to work in that industry. And being really gobsmacked and thinking, one, you're extremely rude because you're saying that to me who works there. But also just like a really narrow-minded view of what it means to be in an industry. Like, why do we have that perception of ourselves? And I think it is internalized sometimes. We think of those jobs as being not careers, and that's not correct. There are so many roles in the industry. I think it's really important.
Yeah, and it all is relevant down to the frontline operation. A lot of the time, you need to have some grasp and experience of that, no matter what department you're in, because that's essentially your clients, your guests, where it all gets generated, and if some people should have at least had a few summers, at least, of teenagers doing that kind of thing, so they got the respect for it.
It completely changes you, like doing a summer in a theme park or even a museum or an attraction. The kind of the experience you get, you can't get anywhere else. Just the people you meet, the diversity of the types of visitors that you interact with, and the offerings that place has. It literally changes people's lives, and I'm just so thankful that I've worked in that industry, and I don't know about you guys. I mean, I think we both are. It's just been amazing experience that you just cannot get anywhere else.
totally agree with that. I think, I would argue it actually makes you a more rounded person. And it's like when you're out, when you're at a restaurant, you have more patience when things don't quite go, as you expect as a guest. You don't get annoyed if you end up with the wrong drink order. You just point it out and, oh, thanks, no worries. Whereas you see other people go irate because they probably don't understand the process or the pressure. So I think it just rounds you off as a more patient and placid person in general.
What you said earlier about the anonymous kind of memory makers is that you're very aware that just because the person serving your drink maybe got it wrong, is that they're actually really dependent on all the other people, and it's never one person's fault. And it's never, I think, that behind the scenes kind of glimpse behind the curtain sometimes gives you a lot more, like say, patience and empathy for actually how big a deal just serving you a drink is sometimes.
I think sometimes as well, it makes you more savvy as a person, but you kind of see what other attractions do, and you're like, oh, I know exactly where to stand if I want to get this line or go to the front.
I think I totally agree with that. If I go to a park and it's with the family, I map out the whole day, and it's like, right, we're going to get this one first because that's the popular ride, so we'll head straight there in the morning before everyone else gets there, or we'll go to this area first, we'll meet the characters here because that's the best time. You're right. But it also makes you fussy sometimes because when you go to industry events and you can just walk on a ride within, Carlton knows what I'm talking about.
I know.
You just walk onto a ride that, on the normal day would have probably an hour, 2-hour queue. And if you go just as a normal civilian, you're like, oh, 15-minute queue? No, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do think it sort of has this weird thing of making you infinitely patient about some things, like, you'll say about messing up drinks orders or whatever. It's like you're patient with the people, but it makes you very impatient about operations.
Yes, that's true.
Do you spend hours creating your rotas and then spend days constantly adjusting them? We have the solution. At Staff Savvy, we specialise in shift schedules and timesheet solutions for visitor attractions. Easily manage multiple complex teams of permanent, casual, freelance and volunteer staff across different locations and disciplines. With fast communication features, automatic compliance tools, training management and simple timesheet tools, Staff Savvy has been used and trusted by organisations such as V&A Dundee, the South Bank Centre and the Royal Albert Hall, with great cost-saving benefits. Visit us at staffsavvy.com/brown sign project to learn more and schedule a demo of our magic rota button.
You're listening to the Brown Sign Project podcast.
So we're gonna kind of touch up on kind of your career as well. So what's been your favorite aspect of your job? What do you love about it?
Going to sound really boring here.
Go on.
I love the analysis. I really do. I love the numbers and how they relate to the operation, and talking to the managers about tweaks here and there that actually help the bottom line, and the detail that goes into it. Creating a nice competitive atmosphere with stock selection, like in the gift hut or the arcade, and celebrating it when a member of staff suggests like a real good winner for the season. I like that kind of thing, and I like talking about pricing and getting that right, and trying to get the good deal and having a look what's good perceived value, and it's kind of live and breathe it every day. So it's a really unusual one, and it's a bit of a geeky one. But
a man after my own heart. I am really like that to me is really fascinating as well. And I'm a real kind of systems person. I love the idea that what happens if we tweak this price up by 10 pence, or what happens if we change out this product to something else. And I had kind of a real eye opener when I worked in theme parks at just the profit differences on different food types, for example. And this is getting super nerdy now.
Yeah.
But
keep it real.
The difference in profit of something like popcorn versus a hot dog. And you think, well, actually, if we can convert so many of these people to something else, actually, that's a massive bonus for our business. And how do you do that? And I think many a childhood not wasted, but playing theme park on PCs for a lot of the people who listen to this podcast.
Oh, don't even get me started, please.
Adding more salt to the chips so people buy drinks.
Yeah, all about it.
Amazing.
Yeah, that is a life lived through theme park on the PC. Absolutely. What a great game.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so let's kind of like rein it in a little bit, and I would like you to kind of talk about like 3 top tips of working in the industry that our listeners can use to kind of get themselves into the tourist attractions or attractions industry.
It depends. There's 2 aspects. There's one is entering, and one is whilst you're there. Entering, I would say, is just start. If you're just out of school, or if you're out of college and looking to go, just find your local attraction. Doesn't matter if it's a local bowling alley or if it's get going, work hard. It's be open, go to an interview serious, sensibly dressed. You don't have to overdo it nowadays with tie, jacket and everything, but smart casual is the way to go. Have a sense of humor, be engaging, relax. I'd say that to my younger self. Is relax, don't be so intense. People will open up to you more when you're more relaxed. So that would be getting in terms of when you're in and you're looking for progression and things like that. I'd probably mention patience as one, being willing to move sideways, because quite often you have to move sideways before you move up, because you get different experience in different departments, and if you become persistent with that and excel in your role, you do get noticed. You do. It might take a little bit of time, but you do. And if you're persistent and you thick skin and carry on, you quite often you sometimes you can be last man standing, depending on what place you are. And also manage up. Sometimes your leaders might not be the perfect leader that you would think you would be. So pick the gaps, be helpful. And they like to call it managing up. So without treading all over your manager, but you spot the gaps and you take on the responsibility, so you become helpful.
Yeah, I think you definitely touched on it there in terms of, that what you would have done differently. But if you had one piece of advice for your younger self, what are you telling them? What's going to make a difference to Ash's life today?
Yeah, it's going to be relax. Not everything happens in an instant, and actually, I think we all think we're great leaders when we're younger. I can do that. I can be a leader. And actually, we don't really know what it means. We just think it's different colours, top of uniform, and you get to tell a few people what to do. It's so much more than that. It's the buck stops with you and everything. There's no one else to ask for a decision. It's you, and I think that's it. And it does take time to build that. And leadership's never finished. No one's the finished article. As long as you have that self-analytical, without being too harsh on yourself, but that honesty with yourself of where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are, and then when you're in a position of leadership, to pick talent that kind of help with your weaknesses and not be threatened by it. That's the key.
Absolutely, bang on.
Surrounding yourself with good people, I think it's and like I say, it's difficult when you're younger, because you do sort of have maybe the mentality that I'm doing this all myself. That to be a leader means to be everything, and not realizing that actually your network and your people around you are the ones that really kind of you learn from and you can rely on, and they kind of carry you through the harder bits of your job sometimes.
Exactly. You can't do it all yourself. You become intense. You get fried, and and actually it's about delegation and verifying. Don't delegate something and leave it. Delegate, come back, check it's how you wanted it, and if it isn't, then you help someone develop. It's not a telling off. It's this is how we grow, and then someone eventually owns that, and then they grow. And in a leadership role, you should always be looking for your successor, I think.
Yeah, that is great advice. And I think, definitely something in terms of, I think a lot of, especially smaller attractions, struggle with that idea that you're growing a succession plan, knowing who in the business is going to follow you. And even if you've trained them and they move on and, you know, move out of the businesses, that's not to say they won't come back. It's not to say that, and actually, if you treat people well, generally speaking, I find that they do come back anyway.
But there is a pride in that. You know, it's that was one of the things of my why, is actually seeing young people grow. And if they go on to go and do great things elsewhere, I'm glad I've played, or the company, and many people have played, but myself has played a part in that.
I think something that's kind of a recurring theme that me and Carly are hearing is empathy. It's actually understanding other people and being in their shoes. And that's the same with leadership as well. You know, with your experience, you started when you were really, really young and worked your way up, and you understand how to empathize. So people really just need to understand it's not about going so quickly to the top of the job mark, the hierarchical of the actual company. It's actually also to the sideways. And I think that was a key thing that you kind of brought to me. It's just, you can do side movements. Don't worry about it. You know, you're going to learn so much, and then you're going to slowly build your way up. So
yeah, for me, it was about, that's what your 20s are for. You know, it's for doing that. It's what was I think back to what was the rush? Why was I so eager? And it's like I wasn't ready. And the more people tell you you're not ready, the more you get annoyed with it, because you think you are. Yeah. But now when you get into your kind of mid-30s and that, you think, yeah, my 21-year-old self was not ready at all. And that's why it's never, don't waste your 20s. Get all that, say yes to everything, just do it, work it out later, progress, stick some things out. Don't constantly change in that. Sometimes you need to make a change, but sometimes you stick it out, because actually 2-3 years experience somewhere than just one season is far better on your resume than just every season different place.
Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah. I have just got one last question. And then we're going to wrap up. But it's been fantastic to talk to you. So my last question is, why should people come and work in the tourism sector? Like, what would be your call out to everybody who's thinking about it to say, come and join us?
Well, it will blow your mind. I think is and you learn something new every day about yourself, about other people, just about human nature, and it's quite funny. Sometimes even the stressful stuff is funny when you talk about it later. And it's all based on stories and people. You know, it's not sat in an office making phone calls, sending emails over and over again. It's diversity of your day. I think it is, and then you get to specialize in something. You know, but you don't know what that is when you're younger, and you just find you find it eventually. Like, oh no, I love this aspect. And it could be anything. We've talked about how diverse it is. And then you back yourself. You know, you don't have to know what degree to do in our industry, I think, before you enter it, which is really good. And you don't have to have a degree, which I think is really good for equal opportunities for everybody. And, you know, you can do that specialist study later. I think it's great. And it means our industry is better for it, I think. And, you know, so of course the specialized areas, you'll have to get some form of degree or something later. If you know early, great. But if you don't worry. And the why is actually, the more you grow in the industry, you meet such great people, and it's smaller than you think. It's global. You know, you go to some of these IAAPA shows and you see the same people, and you forge those relationships. And you have such good times with them, and share so many good stories which improve the industry, improve your own career, and that's why. And you'll be blown away.
Yeah, I think that you just made me think actually of, you say about it being a small industry, because I think we forget sometimes we are so global. And you just made me think, I was once at an IAAPA party in Shanghai, and just like, you know, like a little get together or whatever, and I'm in a country where, you know, very few people really speak English. I'd been out there 2 weeks. It was, you know, an incredible trip, but it's quite sort of lonely in that sense. I thought, I'll go to this IAAPA drinks mixer, and I knew like 4 people in the room. And just going like, how have I been in this country for 2 weeks and there's 4 people I know in this room and I haven't seen anybody? And I just think you know the people who stay, and I think you get to know the characters that sort of inhabit our world. I think it's a very global industry, but a very kind of personable one. It's very, very, if you meet people and you forge friendships, and it's a great industry.
Yeah, and really genuine friendships too, very genuine ones.
Yeah, you say about like having a sense of humor. I think I can think of times where, you know, it's the kind of if you didn't laugh you'd cry type situation sometimes when you work long hours in a summer season, you know.
That's what I used to cook. Someone said, what word comes to your mind when you go to IAAPA? And this is when I was far more front line and like, every day in the summer, was therapy, because suddenly you talk to other people and hear their stories, and it was like, I'm not alone. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Therapy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Carlton and I are part of a visitor experience forum group, and I always describe it to people like that. So,
it's therapy.
It's like kind of like, you know, a self-help group, but we all just happen to work in visitor attractions.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your inspirational stories with us. Really, really appreciate it. But if there's anyone that wants to get in contact with you, where's the best place to find you?
Well, I pretty much live at our attraction at Harbour Park in West Sussex by the beach. Hope people come down. Anyone with families, with kids, you know, even the grandparents come down. It's a great day out. It really is, and we've got great picnic greens on the beach there. So bring your cricket bat or rounders bat, barbecue, a lot. It really is good. So I'm here. I'm usually at IAAPA events as well. So please, if anyone sees me in London this year, September, please grab me, say hello, and I'll be in Orlando in November as well. So and it is come to those events as well, because the more you come and go to them, the more you solidify those connections.
So just to make our listeners understand, if you don't know what IAAPA is, can you just briefly tell us what that is?
Yeah, IAAPA is kind of the global association for the attractions industry, members worldwide in all the regions, members all the way, museums, science centers, aquariums, theme parks, Disney, to family-owned businesses like us, FECs, family entertainment centers. And there's 3 premier expos, one in Asia Pacific, one in Europe in September, Asia's usually in June, and international one in Orlando in November. And they do conference education sessions. The one in Orlando at its peak was 9 miles long of show floor, so lots of product too. And there's networking events that go on, and they do young professionals, do great young professionals event, education sessions and socials. So look into it and get involved. Amazing.
Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, I don't use it half as much as I would like. But yeah, if people want to connect me on LinkedIn, by all means do. And I do check my messages on occasion.
but we know where to physically find you in the park, so that's vitally important.
Yes, that's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Ash. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I think you've inspired a lot of people, mainly with talk of statistics, which is absolutely close to my heart. So.
Thanks, Carly. Thanks, Colton. Appreciate it.
No problem. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Brown Sign Project. In our next episode, we have a fascinating conversation with Anthony Lynch, the Head of Visitor Services and Security at Royal Albert Hall, London. The Brown Sign Project was edited by Paul Tyler and supported by our season sponsors, Staff Savvy and Stephen Spencer and Associates. Thanks very much for listening.